Sucker Punch really came out swinging with its second and final PlayStation 4 title in 2020's phenomenal Ghost of Tsushima. It was a vibrant, emotional and violent recreation of feudal Japan during the Mongol invasion. In just over a year it has already seen DLC, free online modes and a PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility boost patch, but now it goes full James Cameron with a director's cut that plans to raise that bar further on PS4 and PS5. But how much more are you getting with this return to Tsushima Isle?
Brace yourself, boy.
Now visually it was a stunner, with flowing meadows, billowing trees, dynamic time of day and weather, and a striking colour tone and lighting creation that delivers a dream-like visage with a clear dichotomy of mood throughout your adventure, being one of the biggest draws for me at least. As was the rewarding combat and traversal system. This artistic focus is exemplified by one of the most dramatic and flamboyant openings of all time, truly cementing itself in that PlayStation 4 legacy. It set a high bar, and the game and team maintained that throughout, placing it as one of my personal favourite titles of last year, and indeed in my top 10 of this very generation, or at least the one that's just ended. Now, not all aspects were perfect or consistent, but it delivered a captivating tale of Japanese history with one of the most organic, dynamic and dramatic worlds in games. Check out my full review back then at launch. Now, one nice addition before we get into the suite of boosts this version offers, and something Sony have clearly been working on, is that ease of cross-generational saves. Now you only need to save your PS4 version on your PS5, and you simply import them into the new format via an in-game local conversion tool. You can download them from cloud saves to your PS5 or import them from a USB stick. It's very simple, and you can bring each and every one of your multi-state saves across one by one. It's very useful for me for reviews and testing, but it's also beneficial to anyone that likes to have all those options again when they pick up the title in the new PS5 version. I commend the fact that it's here, and I do hope that it becomes a simple SDK option now for all developers to implement this. So let's go through these boosts one by one. One big boost is the cinematic lip sync animations now cater for Japanese voiceover settings. Some may not be that impressed with it, but it is a great benefit, and certainly one that's in keeping with the entire focus of the title and the team's aims.
病のようだが、果たして治るのかどうか。
何があったの？
わからん。見慣れぬ猛虎兵だった。
They claim to follow someone called the Eagle, and they're planning an attack on Tsushima.
Those people lost their minds.
It may seem minor, but it's a nice increase that each character now pronounces and shapes those vowels and consonants within each syllable correctly for the language chosen.
木におるとか。
海賊と罪人の島だ。
Now this has coincided with another big change, and one that may go largely unnoticed, and that is that all cutscenes now run real time. But this does mean that they are now all 30 FPS, rather than the 60 FPS we saw in that backwards compatibility version. Now from the team's blog update, this is because the PS4 can run these all real time, although the PS4 and the Pro ran many of them in real time, so that's likely not the issue. The other area they discussed is the speed of that SSD and loading files in, and that's the reason why many of them were video files, as they were used to hide the loading sequences and they ran as it loaded in the next sequence in the background. Now, due to the size of encoding two videos with English and Japanese lip sync animations, was not and remains not possible for the PS4 and the Pro. Now, my first guess here is due to that lip sync method of those real-time sequences having a possible limitation for these being 30, but it could just as easily be an artistic choice which was very apparent a core pillar of the game's development from the start. And whatever the reason, the real-time cinematics do look slightly better in details and textures at points, but some may prefer that backwards compatibility 60 FPS version, which were also flawless at a locked 60 with an identical 1800p checkerboard image. Something which does change now with two modes as before on the Pro at least, but as unlike the Pro where that was needed because it could dip certainly on the Pro in certain sections on that high resolution mode, but here on the PS5 they seem superfluous if not redundant. High frame rate gives that identical 1800p 60 FPS we saw and still do in that PC version, or the only choice of that high-res version now targets 2160p at 60 FPS, but again, it still uses checkerboard rendering. It does help image quality with less ghosting and flickering, reducing on all movement, but although there is still shimmer that comes from shadow maps, distant thin alpha, which is an obvious issue consistently for checkerboard rendering techniques at the moment, and although all other lower resolution buffers do stand out at times, it does offer a small boost in IQ, but this is combined from the temporal increase to 60 and also the underlying pixel count being bumped up to now a fixed 2160p from my counts. Wrapping up performance is a simple case of there's nothing to see here. As before at 2160p, this is still a locked 60 FPS with no noted drops at all in my few hours back in the saddle or living by the sword. My advice is simply just choose high frame rate and just enjoy the ride, as it is absolutely perfect. Read the note on screen. Next, and very welcome, is the use of haptic feedback via the DualSense, complete with adaptive triggers. This does add to the feel of the game, and a use of weapons, those clank of swords in battle or the drawing of the bow, all enhanced now with that tactile feel of combat. It really becomes apparent how much they add when you go back to the DualShock 4 version, and all these actions now seem very flat in comparison. Now, this is not a transformative change by any means, but as I noted in Returnal, it means that you can pick up key game elements such as block, strike, health, ammo, etc. without the need of a screen prompt and just through those haptics alone. It's a great benefit to the title, and it really does boost the PS5 version in terms of that control system, which is a big part of playing games. Another one is audio. Now, the 3D audio support is another great boost here, and the game already had one of the most accomplished and vibrant soundscapes in modern games anyway. I currently have the 3.0 beta here, so this generally has incredible technology that now enhances that immersion away from just headphones, and it can now be enjoyed through your surround sound system. In the midst of combat, those clank of swords behind or the binaural effect of wind passing by really raise the effect of many sequences, and this is a subject I will dive into more soon. If you are interested in sound though, you can also check out my History of Video Game Sound series in the link below to see how far we have come. Part 2 will be coming up very soon. Right in the here and now though, the fact we can now use the Tempest engine beyond headphones and set up for your own room and system means you really get a personalised experience and soundscape in Tsushima, and it's equally as impressive, passionately created and vital to the game's impact and enjoyment. From the expansive Foley capture and design to the cinematic movie score that underpins key moments and raises both the atmosphere and emotions throughout, this new update is the icing on that rich audio layer cake. And the last one, and probably one of the biggest, is faster loading times are also present. Now, they were fast as hell anyway, even on the base PS4. Now, loading from a new save can take upwards of around 25 to 30 seconds. Obviously, that's extortionately fast now, around 4 seconds. But the game tended to hide a lot of these sequences. Once you started the game and played through, you didn't get a lot of time loading things. But the other biggest benefit is fast travel in the game. You can literally use it like a level select or a cheat system from back in the day in cartridge days. Sub 2 seconds to warp from one location to another. That is incredibly fast, and it feels like a game changer when you go from one version to the next back to back. But in addition, it's also a title that manages to use the card system of the PlayStation 5 quite well, so you can actually jump straight into a game in around 13 seconds from the dashboard. You could probably do it slightly quicker if you can get the card to pop up quickly. It's still not perfect in terms of loading the game, picking out the cards and saves, and then giving you the option to load them, but it does skip all the splash screens and all the menus, and you just get straight back into the point you left the game off, so long as it's one of the cards. I do like that, and again, it's a quality of life improvement to a lot of titles, but it works really, really well here in Ghost of Tsushima. But beyond all this, nothing else has really changed from a technical or graphical perspective. Foliage, shadow maps, LOD, dynamic time of day, SSR reflections are all identical, which is a shame in that more could not be added to the PS5 update, but this is almost a double-edged sword, as the free update to the PS4 version added 60 FPS has taken the lion's share of what this really offers. It's still the best choice, as many people get to enjoy the biggest increase for free without having to buy a new version, although this does contain additional DLC, so really you're upgrading to that. It's $20 or I think around £15 to buy it in the UK. It does add a brand new story chapter and this island in Iki to explore, and this is a cracking expansion to the main story, which can be accessed almost as a side quest beyond Act 2 of the main game. This is the largest reason most will buy it, as you can take all your earned skills, weapons and gear with you, but build up your reputation for a brand new audience. Over this, the title has other updates that have come from feedback, which will also land on the original PS4 release as well, and not limited to the Director's Cut version here. The latest patch brings them as well. You can customise the combat if you struggle with the controls, and now lock onto enemies to aid combat and movement. I myself prefer the original style, as it fitted best with the combat style of Samurai and Katana, as it's generally a defensive and not offensive style, with enemy momentum, stances and using tells from the enemy to counter attacks rather than run in windmilling all the way. But choice is never a bad thing, as long as it does not remove the core focus of the team's aims who built this, and it's never at the expense of it. So an easier lock-on and target mode and triggers to be able to change the combat system and even the control system on the pad itself can now be chosen to personalise the game a little more. Now, even if I would never use them myself, as I prefer that highest intense difficulty, I do applaud the fact that at least you get the choice now to make it slightly easier for people. As far as visual updates go though, it really does not offer much at all, and in fact, aside the technical element of all real-time cutscenes now and Japanese lip sync, some may consider it is a reduction that the old 60 FPS cutscenes now do not remain. But other elements such as the DualSense use, 3D audio and faster travel do offer a tangible improvement over the previous generation. But the biggest boost is that new chapter in the Iki Isle that gives us all another reason to continue Jin's journey and bask in this beautiful world that Sucker Punch smashed us with, and I for one love any reason to keep playing this cracking game. Just do not expect any significant changes to visuals or performance over that BC update last year, which is great, as that means it remains free for all, and therefore you can still enjoy it on your new PS5 even if you still have the old version. But I am sure the internet will find a way to make this all a negative anyway. And that brings us to an end of another video. Remember, I am completely self-funded and independent, and I do this as a part-time hobby, so you can help by commenting down below to help the algorithm, giving it a thumbs up, a subscribe, and sharing where appropriate. And if you can, any dollars and pounds on my Patreon really helps improve the quality and expand the channel. Anyway, I'm off into the sunset, but I'll catch you on the next one.